Amazon, the latest and last cloud giant to report tonight after Microsoft and Google's results, of course, we got last night. Investors are watching for the growth at Amazon Web Services, and also they'll keep an eye on the return on what Amazon is spending on AI. Mackenzie Sagalis has more on what we can expect in today's Tech Check. Mackenzie.
Hey, David. So Amazon is under fresh pressure to prove that its AI investments are delivering real returns, especially after underdog Alphabet raised its capex and was rewarded by investors. But while Alphabet's hyperscale campuses are fueling its own Gemini models, Amazon still lacks a clear AI strategy beyond cloud. Instead, it is betting that AWS will power the large language model makers behind the next wave of demand. Now, Amazon is still number one in cloud, but it's been losing major workloads to rivals. Meta just signed a $10 billion deal with Google. OpenAI is splitting cloud compute between Google, Azure, and CoreWeave. And Anthropic, the startup that Amazon has invested $8 billion into and centered its AI strategy around, is hedging its bets with other hyperscalers beyond Amazon. It all raises the bigger question. Are Amazon's massive infrastructure bets, including an $11 billion data center in rural Indiana built solely to power Anthropic's Claude models, translating into AWS revenue that's strong enough to defend its lead? AWS revenue is expected to grow just over 18%, while Google Cloud jumped 34% and Microsoft Azure grew 40%. And yes, Amazon is starting from a higher base, so this is partly just a product of the law of large numbers, but backlog, which is the best indicator of future growth, it isn't pointing to a clear edge. Amazon's upcoming cloud deals trail Microsoft and Oracle in absolute terms. And after a major AWS outage last week, investors want to see whether Amazon is still ahead, not just spending big, but turning that spend into growth. Guys?
Yeah, Mackenzie, Jim Cramer's brought this up a number of times, the Trainium chips that they have at Amazon in terms of whether and if they can really match in any way the output you get from NVIDIA, or whether they are perhaps not nearly as efficient, and that's hurting some of the customer base. I don't know if you've heard that or have some reporting on it, but certainly something that, we've been discussing.
And they admit the fact that they don't have as much compute as NVIDIA's GPUs, which is why at that facility in Indiana, for example, they can pack twice as many GPUs into that space. But it is a standing question, and it's also part of why we're seeing so much upside with Alphabet. Their in-house chips, the TPUs, are very popular among some of their customers. And so that's why at least some analysts are pointing to that as one reason why Google is winning these workloads.
Yeah. Any thoughts that, given you're reporting that Amazon needs to or would eventually own either Anthropic or something along those lines to try to compete with the likes of Microsoft and Alphabet, amongst others?
They really should have bought Anthropic a couple of years ago. But I put that question to AWS CEO Matt Garman when I met him in Seattle a week ago. And he said that he's happy with the current partnership as it is. I asked Anthropic about it. They have a similar line. And at this point, Anthropic has no incentive to be bought. They have all the funding they could possibly need, especially now that they're accepting sovereign cash from the Middle East. And it would be a very expensive price tag for Amazon. But I will say this, like, David, what I'm looking at going into the print, like you said it earlier, Microsoft's run rate for the year, $140 billion on CapEx. And where Amazon has to win in AI at this point is cloud. So we're going to see if they up that number, because before they were on par with Microsoft, but the pressure is higher to commit to more compute coming online.
Mac, I got to sneak in one about the retail business. I get it. It's not what drives the stock. It's not what's getting all the attention. But the holiday season is right around the corner. What do investors need to know, or what are we looking for about that going into this report, and what we may hear or may not hear about the holiday season and how the company's ready for it?
Well, it's such a great question, because, yes, the cloud business is paying to offset some of the losses that they tend to get on the retail side. But Bank of America is bullish on the e-commerce business. They're projecting from their modeling that it grew over the course of the quarter. So they think that will be a bright spot. And we always know that cyclical hiring ramps up going into the holiday season. They bring people on board for that. But it is something that I'm definitely looking at as well going into the